What genre is Mulholland Drive? I open with this somewhat dry, theoretical question, not just because it's surprisingly difficult to answer in the case of this movie, but also because the generic confusion David Lynch creates is key to producing some of the film's most unforgettable moments. In this video, I'll analyze how Lynch sets up one especially profound moment and explain why I find it so moving. Now, if we were trying to find a guiding artistic principle uniting Lynch's films, a good place to start might be to say they're about finding the unfamiliar in the familiar and wielding it against convention, uncovering the uncanniness of just about everything, and making the formulaic into the surprising and hilarious and thrilling and haunting. Mulholland Drive is practically overloaded with genres and their attendant cliches and stereotypes. It's a crime thriller, it's a western, it's a horror movie, it's a mystery, it's a gangster film, it's a slapstick comedy, it's a film noir. I mean, come on, have you ever seen a face that says, "I am a hard-boiled detective," more clearly than Robert Forster's here? And, above all, it's a movie about movies, which is its own genre with a long history, and which has a lot to do with why all those other genres I just named are crowding into this film. We see two directors in this movie, the fiery, talented Adam Kesher, seen here, and the sleepy and pretentious and not-so-talented Bob Booker, seen here.
So, don't play it for real until it gets real.
This is a very funny, bitingly satirical moment, but this dictum, don't play it for real until it gets real, although pretty much meaningless in Bob's context, becomes surprisingly meaningful when considering how the movie we're watching works. Mulholland Drive abounds with generic devices and stock characters and commonplaces, and Lynch embraces and foregrounds their artificiality rather than trying to conceal it, which gives the film its startling veneer of unreality and otherworldliness. He never plays it for real too soon, because he knows that if we put these genres and conventions under the pressure of other worlds, other genres and stories seething under and around and through them, they'll crack open and recombine and reveal their strangeness to us and become something new and exciting. And that's when it gets real. To show how this works, let's talk about the obvious genre Mulholland Drive falls into that was missing from my list above: romance. Unlike his deployment of the other genres, with his cartoonish detectives, Castigliani brothers, and so on, Lynch's treatment of the love story at the heart of his film is sensitive and subtle, tracing the tense but unspoken attraction between Betty and Rita through hands sliding across a map, cheeks coming together over a telephone, and playful, appreciative glances. It's subtle to the point that many viewers, especially straight people, don't even pick up on the erotic element in Betty and Rita's relationship until they sleep together. That's the point at which the fact that we're watching a love story becomes, in more senses than one, explicit. But it's also the point at which the telling of the love story becomes jarringly broad and blunt, with an infusion of energy from a very different genre.
Good night, Betty. You don't have to wear that in the house. What? The wig.
This exchange is something out of a teen sex comedy, or maybe even porn.
This is a huge bed.
Where the important thing isn't getting people to fall in love, but getting people to hook up. From the setup with the towel on into their lovemaking, the constructedness of the whole thing is palpable. They're not, in Bob Booker's words, playing it for real. Betty even asks Rita the ultimate cliched question for a woman getting it on with another woman.
Have you ever done this before?
But then, Rita's response is the ultimate payoff for all the genre confusion, the point at which it gets real.
I don't know.
What a moment. And what a masterstroke on Lynch's part. She doesn't know, because she has amnesia. Betty asks a scripted question, but because of the mixing of genres, Rita fails to give the scripted response, instead saying something wholly original and unexpected and funny and refreshing. And it's as if Lynch produced this amazing moment by running lesbiansex.exe on these other plot conditions he set up drawing on other genres. This amnesiac femme fatale out of a film noir wanders into a raunchy queer awakening story, and all of a sudden, you get something beautiful and new, something that escapes the cliches and formulas. Don't play it for real until it gets real. With the script broken in this way, the scene erupts into a kind of radical openness, and this is the point where, for me, it becomes really moving and profound. Rita returns the question about having done this before.
I don't know. Have you?
And like Rita in her response to this yes or no question, Betty, whose memory is presumably intact, doesn't say yes or no. She doesn't refer to her past history at all, and I think it's very important that she doesn't. Instead, she pauses, considers, then says,
I want to with you.
I want to with you. I can hardly think of a simpler and more beautiful expression of the liberatory power of desire. It's a relation between you and what you want that renders completely irrelevant the question of who you are. It is a kind of transport in the richest and fullest senses of the word. Recall Rita's agonized cry to Betty earlier in the film.
I don't know who I am.
But here, the question of her identity has lost its terrible hold on her, and she can say, I don't know, and be content with that. Love annihilates the past, as both she and Betty are lifted out of their personal histories into a state of blissful, even frightening presentness.
Go with me somewhere. Sure. Now. Right now.
Desire makes amnesiacs of us all. It allows us to forget ourselves and to do something spontaneous without knowing how or why. It gives us a chance to shed the awful weight of memory and to see ourselves anew.